Wow. Is there really fast track is happening right now?
It's looking like that. Listeners been tweeting us, and I'm just seeing some other stuff that it might be introduced on a Senate committee today.
In a Senate committee, but there's not
What?
going to be a vote on.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think there's going to be a vote on the committee. I don't think it's going to be like a up or down full Senate or full House vote. And I'm also wondering. I think fast track, as far as I understand the political calculus of it, it might be harder to pass the House potentially.
Fast track is going to be much harder to pass the House than the Senate, and the Senate I think
Right.
would pass it in a moment.
Right.
The House is going to be the big struggle, but
Right.
just to just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, fast track is an authority that the Senate and the House grants to the president to essentially offer a negotiated deal, trade deal. And in the Senate, there can be no filibusters or amendments, and in the House, there can be no amendments added. So it's an up or down vote, which makes it a lot harder to stop that bill. And we've talked quite a bit on this program about the TPP and the Trans-Pacific Partnership and its sort of cousin. There's a deal also with the EU, which I imagine that fast track authority would be for both of them. They both basically cede sovereignty of democratically elected governments in their ability to create a statutory regime, regulations for labor, environment, for consumer protections that are essentially reduced down to the lowest common denominator and then adjudicated by a three-person corporate industry lawyer panel to determine whether or not the regulations that are imposed on corporations in any one given nation that is a part of this deal somehow inhibits the profit projections of that company when entering into that market. And therefore, that, in quotes, offending country must make up the difference, pay essentially a fine for imposing any type of regulations that they see fit to protect their workers, consumers, environment, what have you, that they essentially have to pay a fine to that company for doing so. We've seen some examples of this via NAFTA with companies coming from Canada here and companies from here going to Canada where regulations don't allow them to exploit the marketplace in the way that they had projected they could. And so this is, in a general sense, that's the problem with these trade bills. When you get into there's also other aspects about so-called intellectual property, which are also very problematic, sort of embedded versions of what we know as a sort of like SOPA. Also impacts pharmaceuticals. There are countries which have less protection in terms of protecting non-generic pharmaceuticals from being able to be exploited for an extended period of time. And this aims squarely at that as well. So this is very problematic, in addition to the problems with labor and environmental regulations. So this is something that if you have the opportunity to contact your senator, and for that matter, your House representative, and tell them no to TPP, do so. We'll put a link. I think that this gives you the phone number. We'll put a link to this.
Fight for the Future has a website, stopfasttrack.com.
There's been very little written about this fast track moving forward in recent days. So I'm a little bit surprised to see that. But let's take a break. When we come back, we will take your phone calls at 646-257-3920. We'll take your IMs at Majority FM. You can IM us via the app. Go to majorityapp.com.
We got a IM from a listener. Not an IM, a tweet from a listener. There was a discussion yesterday at a rally in Albany on implications TPP would have on fracking bans, and it's bad news all around.
Right. I don't doubt it. I mean, because you're ceding not just local authority in terms of like municipalities and states, but you're ceding local authority when it comes to your country.
Well, in some ways, the irony of these trade bills is that they're not trade bills per se. They're actually regulatory bills.
That's right.
And they're deregulatory bills.
That's right.
That's what it's about.
Right. What we're seeing is less about sort of trying to shore up America's trade parity and more about ceding sovereign nation authority to a one world government that actually consists of a three-person corporate panel.
It's a race to the bottom. That's the other phrase. That's all.
Yeah.
And also financial regulations are implicated by this too.
That's
the
right.
big
Although I think
Lou did say that
Right.
he made some caveats, but nonetheless, do we really want the global financial architecture to be connected like that and potentially deregulated and further kind of
right.
cut
Well,
down
once
in
you
the
set
future?
once you set the sort of the structure for these type of deals, then
The trajectory's downward.
implicating them in other sectors, it becomes much easier.